Perek Sheni. Perek Shlishi. I'm sorry. Let's start Perek Shlishi. Devora Perek Shlishi. Let's just review what we're talking about here. We're talking about the emulating Hashem Selam Alikim al pi hasviros, which is a little bit more complex and sophisticated than emulating Hashem al pi hamidos. Midos are what Hashem does, midos, and Sfiros are Kuviyachol what Hashem is. Not that we can understand what Hashem is, but a little bit of a glimpse we receive. In other words, we understand what Chesed is, we understand what mercy is, we can understand it, we can try to get a deeper understanding. But Sfiros, without the Gilui of the Mekubalim, there's just no way to understand what it even means. So we're talking about a sort of a structure of, again, Lefi Sichleinu, what Lefi Asagas Yedenu, what we can understand about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's awesome, no? Just awesome. You know, I keep saying every night in the Tehillim Shir that I don't usually say this about my shiurim, but if you miss it, you're missing a good shiur. It's just we're all saying Tehillim for years, and davening Sukkot Zimmer for years, and I'm fighting myself until I'm learning it now. I have no idea what sing it, we have beautiful nigunim, but what is it? Keres habayis. What does it mean? But that's even deeper, because that's not only can we understand the kind of sort of the mahus of HaKadosh Baruch Hu through the spheroids, but David HaMelech actually talks about having a relationship with that. So, like, if you're talking about Hashem as some sort of energy, or like you don't have a relationship with energy, we're talking about the spheroids, and what the Ramak is saying is deeper yet, because what he's saying is that if we could understand HaKadosh Baruch Hu's spheroids, we can understand the Komas Ha'adam. And the Komas Ha'adam is that the same circuitry is built within us. Like I say, it's no other word but awesome. It's the circuitry of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is built within us. So if the Kabbalah even draw the diagram of a man to understand HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But the Yikar is Hashem. We also have this bonsai microcosm of the circuitry of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So we were talking about the beginning of the spheros is the more difficult part of the spheros, which is called the Keter. And Keter is, to say it simply, Al Pi HaZohar, is Keter, like a triangle. Keter, Chochmah, Bina. Similar to lower down, you have Chesed, Devora, Tiferes. But this is an upside down segel. So you have Keter on top, Chochmah, and Bina. We were discussing the Keter until now, complicated, and now we're going to be just discussing the Chochmah and the Bina. The reason why I say it's more complex at the beginning of the spheros than it is at the end of the spheros, because the earlier in the spheros it is, we don't find this by the midos of Hashem, Kol Racham L'Chanan. They're sort of equal. It's standing, but by the spheros, the earlier the spheros, the more hidden it is.
Closer to Hashem.
Closer to Hashem, and therefore more hidden. So we can understand a little bit about Chesed and Devora. We can understand a lot about Malchus, because Malchus is very down to earth. That's the lowest sphere. We understand a lot about Midas HaYisod. But from Chesed and Devora we can understand. But these are called Keter, Chochmah, and Bina. I don't want to confuse things or complicate things with Kabbalistic concepts. I'm using Kabbalah to make it easier, not to make it more difficult. But they're called, it's like an interesting word, they're called the Moichin. Moichin.
Right.
What does Moichin mean? So we call Moichin brains. But when we understand how we work, how we operate, what we say, what we do, what makes us, it's all being triggered or
Processed.
what's
Processed?
no, no. It's all coming from this invisible thing called Moab.
Yeah.
Now Bina is a process. So we're not. It's interesting that everybody sees or hears what I'm saying, and everybody sees what I'm doing, and everybody knows about my personality and all that. But what's driving that? What's driving that is Na'alam, and what's Na'alam is Keter, Chochmah, and Bina. That's Na'alam. So it's very difficult to understand. So if you don't understand it, you can't emulate it. So it's important to understand, but it's difficult to understand. Just as a side point, like there's also in the Keter a different way of looking at it, which is Chochmah, Bina, and Das. So people say, okay, that's the Lubavitchers. It's not it's an equal concept. What?
Chochmah, Bina, Das. Chabad.
Very good. That's what I'm saying. It's an equal concept. It's equally important kabbalistically. It's just two sides of a coin. So what you have is Chochmah, Keter, Chochmah, Bina, where the segel is turned upwards, upside down. Bear with me on this because it's important. Or you could have when the Keter is down here, so you have Chochmah, Bina, and Das takes the place of the Keter. So let's put it this way: there's the Keter Elyon, and then there's the Keter Tachtay. Just
So the difference is the Das and the Keter.
Das equals Keter.
Haber?
Yeah.
If I could just try to translate this to terms we can understand, this lahavdil, like someone comes out with a CD, the name of the CD might be the same name as the top song. So the first song, or one of the songs, might be that name of the CD. So Keter is the name of the whole three. Keter is also the name of the first one, which was the most important of the three.
But that's not what I'm saying.
Is that what you're saying?
No. So let me try to put in words we can understand, because I want to be very careful with this, because I can't stand when people talk about these things. They have no idea what they're talking about. I'm not talking about you. I'm just saying you're not talking about me. No, this is the. It's like it's hard to use our imagination. But let me just read you from the Arizal for a
I thought
minute.
the whole three were Keter. That's why I was asking.
No, that happens to be true, but that's not what we're talking about. It happens to be that all that is called the Keter. And your Hezbollah is a good one, like a CD. That's a good Hezbollah, but that's not what I'm talking about here. Besides for that, the whole thing is called Keter. There's a compartment called Keter, Chochmah, Bina, or you could say Chochmah, Bina, Das, where Keter is not a thing, nor is it only the name of the thing. But Das is the flip side of Keter. So let me put it in words that I can understand, where the Keter is taking from us. Let's talk about us for a minute, our Keter. So there's us that's taking from Shemayim, like a Navi. Let's say you're a Navi, and you're hearing
Thank you.
the voice of Hashem. Yes, well, you're for sure. So you're hearing the voice of Hashem. And Das is taking that voice and translating it to a place where it can be now brought into the to the Chesed Devora Tiferes. I'm sure in the world of science and chemistry, and there's a million examples of this, but let's just talk about this example. We don't need a better example, because when I hear something scientific, I say, oh, that's like the
Receiver and transmitter.
Hmm?
Receiver and transmitter.
No,
No, I'm missing.
no, you are missing, because you're mixing in process. You keep on get rid of that. What we're talking about is not receiver and transmitter. We're talking about we're talking about that which is heard from HaKadosh Baruch Hu and then translating it into a code which the world can understand, called the Bria. Let me just read you for a minute from Ruchaim Vital. Ruchaim Vital says as follows in Sefer Piskei Chochmas Emes. L'famim choshvin Chabad, l'famim machmas goydel lahelem shebekeser, ein hakeser nichnas becheshbon. As choshvin as hadas. Keser could be so hidden that it's already beyond anything that we have anything to discuss about. So in such a case, we talk about das. In the words of the Balatanya, das is derech ha'avoda, and keser, he agrees, everybody agrees with each other, it's the same thing. But keser is derech of, like a philosophical thing, like you can maybe understand it, maybe you can't, but das is what do you do with it. So we're not talking about transmission. L'famim machmas goydel ha'helam, because of the hiddenness of the keser, eina keser nichnas b'cheshbon. Va'oz choshvinas hadas. O shemachmas hadas eino ela hisnoitzetzus hakeser, l'chein ein lo shem likanes minin shel sfira b'fnei asmai. Or sometimes das doesn't add anything, it's just a translation of keser. You're just saying what I'm saying, so then we don't talk about das, we just talk about keser. I feel like a little bit guilty talking about something so esoteric, but I'm doing this for a reason. Trust me as a teacher here that in order to understand the spheros correctly and the midos correctly, to bring a lebaisa, like it's important to have these terms right. So nothing to be afraid of over here. So sometimes we don't say das because das is just a hisnotzetzus. What's the word hisnotzetzus mean?
Spark.
Like a spark.
Wait.
A spark in the verb sense, not in the noun sense.
It means like a
Sparkling.
what?
Sparkling.
Yeah.
Flash.
Right. So it's just like a reflection of the keser. So the das sometimes is unimportant to even mention. In those cases, we talk about keser, chochmah, and bina. And sometimes the keser is so nelam, we don't know what to do with it even. So we talk about chochmah, bina, and das. But so he says over here, at the end of the day, you only have, and the Mekubalim always talk about this, there's never more than Eser and there's never less than Eser. Because there's this idea of trying to get, so maybe there's 11 spheros. You have Keser, you have Das. So like even in the spheros of Shabbos, it says you go Eser, and not more than Eser, not less than, or like the Sfardim say, Pesach Eliyahu on Erev Shabbos, which is nice once in a while daven by the Sfardim, and then come here. And just say Pesach Eliyahu. It's like such a beautiful thing the way they say it together. But it's all the same thing. The point being that there's really no difference between Das and Keser. It's the same thing. So
it's described as like a byproduct of the Chochmah and Bina. When the Chochmah and Bina come together, they produce this offspring of Das.
So that's what the Balatanya says. I don't know that that's what Kulal with that part of it, because then you're making Das into Tiferes.
Yeah, so that's what I thought, and therefore Das then becomes like the Keser.
So I'll tell you what it means. What it means is that Keser sometimes is impossible to understand. It's true. I mean, like how esoteric can we become? Like, so Keser is like so close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem is above all this, by the way. We're not talking about. This is in the world of Atzilus. There's Hashem, Atzilus, B'riyah. This is all about Atzilus. But Hashem is above all this. But it goes through, as Eliezer says, a process of Chochmah and Bina. And once it goes through that process, now the Keser becomes Muvan as Das. But it's not that Das, that Chochmah and Bina equals Das. Don't look at it that way. Look at it as a pipe, where the Keser runs through the Chochmah and then the Bina, meaning there's your giver and receiver, your receptor, and now what you're coming out with is something called Das. It's very similar to light, and that's the mashal used by the Arizal all the time, where you have an or pashut. And or is not something which you can see or understand or anything. What's or? Until it's reflecting on something, it has no bashmos at all. But it doesn't mean it's not there. It is there, but it's so esoteric that it's of no consequence to us. So we did talk about the Keser. That's where we talked about the Betzach and the Shvi. We're talking about the Etzim of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now we're moving our way down to earth, to the world of Chochmah. Let me just say this. What did you want to say, Penny? I'm sorry.
Just the word perceptible.
Okay. What do you, I don't know what the...
Chochmah Bina makes the Keser perceptible.
So, but it's a pipeline. It's not like here's Chochmah, here's Bina, and together you get Das. As opposed to, let's say, Chesed, Devora, the combination of the two, the homogenation of the two, gives you Tiferes, or Netzach Hoid, you get Yisoid. But the whole thing together equals Malchus. There you're adding pieces. It's like pieces of a puzzle. Over here, that's not what's going on in the Keter. What's going on is we're taking something from esoteria to the point of perception, as you say, and that's what's going on here. So it becomes kind of interesting and very sophisticated for us to walk out of here and say, okay, well, how am I going to change now because of this? Like, what does it all mean for me? So now we're talking about Chochmah. So again, these are the moichin. Remember that idea that these are the moichin. The invisible. That doesn't even mean the brain as we're talking about it, but it's talking about that which is somehow, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, like it's not even subconscious. It's a deeper thing than that. The thing that the scientists, there's a part of the brain that the scientists can't even put their finger on, which makes us what we are, and what makes us unique. It's not even something that'll ever show up on it'll never show up on an X-ray. It'll never show. There's something in between all those chambers of the brain, which we call the neshama, and that neshama probably is the thing that makes us unique. It's probably the neshama. Nobody knows what the neshama is, but what?
The moichin are part of the neshama?
Yeah, I believe the Keter is the neshama. When I become a big Rebbe, you'll quote me.
Mirz Hashem.
Okay. I'm getting older. Okay, now let's talk about Chochmah for a second. Let's read about it a little bit and then take it further. The Chochmah, here's a simple thing. Hashem has Chochmah, we have Chochmah. Okay. Hidei HaChochmah HaElyola.
Which one is it, sorry?
Perek Shlishi.
Where?
Devora. What do you want me to say?
Oh,
What page?
first word.
You skipped the first line, okay.
I'm gonna give one.
Hey Yargol Atzmai B'Midas HaChochmah. Title. How should a person act with Chochmah? Now, again, we all know the answer to that. Well, just act smart. But that's not what we're talking. My whole introduction is to say it's B'chlal that we're talking about. The word Chochmah in the world of Kabbalah, it's a toast. It's a toast that even Feldheim makes when he, whoever it is that translated this. Chochmah does not mean smart. Chochmah means something else. So, Yargol Adam Atzmai B'Midas HaChochmah. Let's try to figure out what that is. Hidei HaChochmah HaElyola Prusa Al Kol HaNimsoim Kulam Im Hayoisai Na'alemes V'Niskeves Ma'oid. The supernal Chochmah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is spread across Prusa Al Kol HaNimsoim Kulam, every part of existence. Im Hayoisai, albeit that it's Na'alemes, that it's completely hidden, V'Niskeves, and elated Ma'od. Ba'aleho nemar morabu ma'asecho Hashem, kulam b'chachma asisa. Okay, listen. You thought that kulam b'chachma asisa, we say this every day. Morabu ma'asecho Hashem, kulam b'chachma asisa, like you're looking at this machine, or let's say you even have like a Mac or something, so whoa, that thing is made b'chachma. Right? There's so much chachma in that thing. That's not the pshat. That it was made b'chachma, that somebody thought, put this next to that, like it's engineered. That's not what that's true about Max, but that's not what this pasuk is talking about. Kulam b'chachma asisa means that chachma is the actual ingredient of the recipe of this world. It's not that he did it b'chachma like an adverb, right? B'chachma asisa. How did I do that? Whoa, you did that wisely. You did that smartly. It's more like a smart house. Like, kulam b'chachma asisa, HaKadosh Baruch Hu took a thing called chachma.
Chachma was the medium.
Chachma is the thing, the recipe, the flour, the Play-Doh.
Like a blueprint?
No. Chachma is this is made out of chachma. It has its physical properties, its scientific properties you can see, properties you can't see. You need a microscope, and it has in it something called chachma. That's
if I may, the fact that he writes Echiyah here, also with Midas HaChochmah, it goes I think that's what Rabbi is trying to say. Maybe that goes against all preconception that we have. The Chochmah is a given state of a gift. You wise, he's now wise. Here's a midah that we have.
Also correct, yes, also correct. Allah namar morabu ma'asecha Hashem. Let's just meditate on the pasuk for a minute. Morabu ma'asecha Hashem. Like wow, like look at the world. Wow, look at that bird, look at that tree, look at that person. Kulam b'chochma asisa. So normally we translate it as this was all made with a gewaltige chochma, like such brilliance. God is a genius, right? That's the normal way of learning. No, kulam b'chochma asisa. The midah of chochma. Read it carefully. The midah of chochma of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is prusa al kol hanimsayin. The chochma is shared with all the nimsayin.
Intrinsic in everything.
In everything there's chochma.
Chochmah.
That's right. With chochma.
Wasn't using chochmah.
Right. So sometimes, not that this machine is being made, well, I really thought about this. I used chochma. It's made out of chochma.
I think
It's hard to understand because the problem is that it's a new ulpan. Because chochma doesn't mean that in Hebrew. But it means that in the world of Kabbalah, chochma means something else. It's a stream, it's a thing, it's a molecule.
So it's not with. Bechochma doesn't mean with.
In.
Bechochma.
Exactly.
In chochma, it's like what Rav saying, not the with. It's not with
Well,
chochma.
it's not
Chochma would be with wisdom. That's not what it means. It's like what the Rav is saying. It's bechochma.
means
Within.
with the
I don't know what the word is in English. But it's not with.
It's also with, but it's a different with.
It's not
Okay.
the tool, it's the component.
That's correct. That's correct.
Can you say ingredient?
Yeah.
It's definitely not
You
in
can say agree.
chochma.
It's part of the recipe.
It's definitely not in
Add a
chochma.
little chochma.
Let's get the band.
You put his tzelem into us.
I thought you were going to say Yatzah Sal de B'chochma.
I was thinking about that also.
So that chokhmah is going to when it is chokhmah as well.
Yeah. So we have within us, just like we have within us, let's say like this, that Hashem has the midas hachesed we learned from the beginning, right? So we have within us a certain kutshel chesed. We have an ability to do chesed in a godly way. We're made out of chochmah. We're made out of chochmah, so we can share that chochmah. Just like Hashem has a part of his keser, kivyachol, which is made out of chochmah. It's part of the ingredient. One of the ingredients of the recipe is chochmah. So and now he shares that chochmah because we learned at the beginning of Perek Beis that anivus means that it goes top down. That's what anivus means. Moshe Rabbeinu received something and gave it. That's the klal. He gave it anivus. That's the Moshe Anu Mikol Adam. So the same thing. Part of what he gave was chochmah. So our chochmah, whatever that is, we do not yet know what it is. I'd like to in the next 10 minutes try to explain this, but until now, by the way, if you're confused, I'm only explaining what it's not. I'm not even talking about what it is. I'm only explaining what it's not. It's not. We're confused by the Hebrew word chochmah, which is just a one usage of the word chochmah where it becomes a verb.
Is that how the Mishnah was made?
Let's get to the Mishnah in a minute. You're always ahead of me there. Kach roy, but let's listen to the words. Kach roy liyadam shetiya chochmasei mitzuya bakol. Listen how, once you know the concept, listen how beautiful the words are. Kach roy l'adam, you hear Eitan Yehuda, how beautiful the words are? Kach roy l'adam shetiya chochmasei mitzuya bakol. Not that you should do everything with wisdom. Play it smart. No. Your chochmah can be shared like Hashem's chochmah is shared. Whatever that is that He has, I have, and now it could be mitzuya bakol. I can have chochmah and my chochmah can be shared with everything all around me, and everything I create is made out of that chochmah. I'm trying to get my chochmah out there, and you're right, koichai.
Chochmah is also an animate object.
What?
Chochmah is I made tables. That table has Chochmah. I mean, it's everything I make, or just I mashpia to people.
Kulam b'chochmah asisa.
And it's
Marabu masecha
it's
Hashem.
the kol masim or masim.
A table, a daimim less than a tzemeach less than a
And it
chag.
has Chochmah in it.
Has chochmah in it.
Which
is a midah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
The table one may not have the same koch to spread out.
But there's Chochmah inside it.
Yeah, but that doesn't have
If
to.
it wasn't made of Chochmah, it's a smartphone.
It doesn't go to spread out.
A smartphone.
It's a smartphone, very
Smartphone
good.
has Chochmah inside.
That's good, that's good, that's good.
Chochmah phone.
That's what he was referring to the smartphone. He was
Chochmah phone, Chochmah phone.
So nowadays we're getting closer to the real Chochmah.
It used to be from the Pella Ha'elyon. The Pella phone. We reduced it to a Chochmah phone.
So nowadays we're actually making items that are smart. In the old days they didn't have smart
That's what I
items.
said, like a smart house.
I say that we're
You make things, not that you make things with wisdom. It's not called a smartphone. But it's a good example, just in our vernacular. I don't know that they had this in the olden days. It's not that it's called a smartphone because whoever made it was real smart.
Which he was too, that's irrelevant.
Of course. Or it's not even that it was made b'chochma with smarts. It is smart. It is a hefza of chochma.
That's why it's big, because base is the house of Chacham.
So last week's parsha, let's talk the Mishkan that you were speaking about here, because this is really the Bakar. Vayidaber Hashem al Moshe Lemar, Re'ei Karasi B'Shem, B'Tzalel B'Nori Ben Choy Lamati Yehuda, V'Amal Yoyse Ruach Halikim, B'Chochma, B'Svuna, U'B'Das, U'B'Chol Malacha. B'Chochma, B'Svuna, U'B'Das. There's a process there. It's a pipe. Chochmah, B'Svuna, B'Das, U'B'Chol Malacha, till it comes to the world of Asiya. It's not three separate things. There's a process here. So it's a stream. So B'Tzalel took something, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave it to him. Ba'amalei oisai ruach Elokim. So that stands above all of this. Before the pasuk. And what happens? It starts with Chochmah, Tvuna, which is the receiver. Look at it as light for a second. Let's say this ingredient is something like light. So it's B'Chochmah, it has no Bashmois at all until it gets to Bina, where it's starting to reflect on something. You understand that the Chochmah is, in the world of Kabbalah, is Zachar, and Bina is Nekeva. Isha, Bina Yisera, Loidasa. It's not that she's she's good with the Bina stuff, you know. It's not I'm good with information. She's good with Bina. It's that's true, but the point is what the Isha does in the Bria, and not just a woman like the women we know, but the whole feminine nature of the Bria is to give a keli and to give mashmos and boundaries to something which is without boundaries. So you know, the example I always say over and over is that a male is capable of having, I forget the number, you know, a few thousand children in a lifetime. I'm not saying supporting them, but having them, you know, because they have them. A woman is capable of having 16 or 17 children or something like that. You know, if you've got 18 or 19, you break the Roger's.
21.
Yeah, you break the record or something like Ripley's, believe it or not. So Ripley. So what's the pshat? The pshat is that you can be no sane. Adasof. So it's like Moshe Kibel Torah B'Sinai. He's taking something infinite. But the point is that the Meiri says at the beginning, Moshe Kibel Torah B'Sinai, it's infinite. When Hashem get everything with a Kibel Masha Kibel. Like you're standing on the bottom of a mountain and somebody's throwing down feathers and you Kibel Masha Kibel. Okay, this is what I've got. Now, Moshe Kibel Torah B'Sinai, Umasra lo Yoshua. What I have, I can give over. Yoshua can give to the Zakanim, the Zakanim to the Nevi'im. It can go over, but there's a paradigm shift from Bli Gvul to Gvul. So Moshe Kibel Umasra Kachazolach. So what we're talking about over here is that now this the pasuk starts to scream at us over here. Rei Karasi B'Shem B'Tzalel Ben Uri Ben Hur Labata Yehuda. What is, by the way, while we're here, you just learned this. What does B'Shem mean? The Hebrew. Rei Karasi B'Shem Asnachta B'Tzalel Ben Uri Ben Hur Labata Yehuda. What is that B'Shem? Rei Karasi B'Tzalel Ben Uri Ben Hur Labata Yehuda. Huh? What's B'Shem?
Proclaims his purpose.
Specifically are called in.
Shem Hashem. Shem is the-
So, the Ebenezer says that Lefi Pshutai, I named him. We don't find that he named him. I mean, except here, but we don't find. The Shem Hashem, the Orach Chaim says Shem Hashem. Shem Hashem. So, B'Tzel Kel, B'Tzalel, Moshe Rabbeinu says, Al Pi Chazal, when he saw the way B'Tzalel was building the Mishkan, he was 13 years old. So the way he was building this Mishkan, so Moshe Rabbeinu told him, B'Tzel Kel Ata. B'Tzel Kel Ata. This is a direct reflection or shadow of Kel, of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's Chochmah there in this Mishkan, but it's not that, in other words, it's not that this Chochmah, wow, this is built smartly, this is built beautifully. No, you took B'Tzel Kel, here's Hashem, and then Hashem casts the shadow. This is the shadow. So in other words, this is a debus of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Kiviyachol, in shadow form. You're a debus of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in shadow form. So he's taking something from the Keter and he's bringing it down. So I have 5 minutes. I don't know what time. Let's do the Rabbeinu Bachia here. There's somebody, the Mefarshim of this pasuk is like Gewaldig. The idiot, says the Rabbeinu Bachia. Idiot, the pshat over here is Ki efshar b'teva sheyimatzei b'Yisrael shub adam sheyabaki v'shalei b'shub u'manois ba'olam. It doesn't make sense that anybody should have the talent and the ability to do what B'Tzalel did. V'shi Yisrael hayu b'shubata b'Mitzrayim. Avodas parach. They know how to build bricks. They know how to get the callous hands. They weren't fine. Nobody was able to do the fine art. So they never saw it even. They loved to some people. Now you need to apprentice. You need to get a teacher to teach you. You can't. There wasn't one Jew in the whole Klal Yisrael that had apprenticed a jeweler to know how to do this fine gold work or fine filigree stuff on the who could do that. And even if you'll find somebody that was a chacham ubaki, even if he had some kind of a messiah from his avos to be a goldsmith, certainly 200 years of slavery would have knocked it out of his system. They're a grub of people, grub. We were our calloused hands. Now you come up with a 13-year-old kid who's a bucky in everything. Daka v'yafa, so fine, so beautiful. But not just in one malacha, but in every malacha. We're talking about weaving, we're talking about gold and silver, we're talking about wood. Kula b'chesed b'zav v'nechoshes b'charoshes evan b'charoshes eitz v'choshe v'roike v'oirei. He knows a pelagodol, says the Rabbeinu Chaim. It's a pelagodol. Not only that, he's smart too. It's like sometimes you get somebody who's got tremendous talent, an artist, but calls that nimsa b'B'Tzalel. Darsha Chazal, this is the words of the brachas that hey, Yodeya haya B'Tzalel l'tzareif oisiyai shenivrahu b'shamayim v'aretz. What does that mean? A Chazal we always hear. That the same ingredients that HaKadosh Baruch Hu used, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu used to create the Shemayim v'aretz, the oisiyais, that's the same thing that B'Tzalel used to create the Mishkan. You see what B'Shem means? B'Shem, Karasi B'Shem. B'Shem is the first gilui of a person's pnimius. Everybody knows your name. You can find it in the phone book on the internet, but you don't know my pnimius. So when HaKadosh Baruch Hu says Shem, or Moshe Rabbeinu says everybody wants to know what's your name, we're talking about something external. We're talking about something, a gilui of HaKadosh Baruch Hu behavior. So Karasi B'Shem, that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu took his essence, and he took oisiyos, kol ha'chaf beis oisiyos, the Zohar says, heim shemai shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why? Because you take Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Dalet, those are articulate, ah, ba, ba, ba. That's the first sounds, like what a baby makes. Those are the first sounds of a Gilui of Pnim of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the world, and then the world was made out of those oisiyos. There's the lashon of Rav Kook in the first Oros says, Kol oilam kulei mole oisiyos, which is a lashon he takes, I believe, from Rav Tzadok. Kol oilam kulei mole oisiyos. It's all, an os is the ultimate articulation. Now it just entered into this world. Ah, oh, eh. Shifra upua shebefapea avlad. Rashi says that she would ooh ah coo when you coo a baby. You're bringing that out into Gully. You're bringing something pnim into Gully. So Amalei says Chazal Yodeya haYibitzala. Look how Chazal understood Bitzala. How we all go over this so quickly. Yodeya haYibitzala Tzaref Oisiyos. He did the same thing that Hashem did. He took the Oisiyos, which is the Chochmah El Yoina, the articulation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself, and he used the same oisius that were created for the Brias HaOlam. He used those same oisius. He knew how to be with Tzaref oisius to build the Mishkan. Says the pasuk in Mishlei, I'm reading the Rabbeinu Bachya. Hashem b'chochma yosad oretz. With chochma, he created the world. Koinei shamayim b'svuna. B'daitoi tahaymais nivko. Shlomo Melech is so beautiful. You want to hug Shlomo Melech? Look what he says over here. Hashem b'chochma, three things. B'chochma yosad oretz. Koilei shamayim b'svula. B'daitoi tahaymais nivko. This is not poetry. Chochma, bina, das. V'al kein amar re'ei karasi b'shem. Koloimar, Re'ei zeh ha'pele ha'godol, shani kairei ha'doros mirosh, v'karasi b'shem b'tzal b'nuri b'chul ha'havin, soid ha'mishkan v'chelav, v'lisasek v'mlachtei, v'hayatam b'shem b'tzalel, b'shmoishel b'tzmanu, yesh b'shem shu ha'shem yisala kamoi, v'yidoacha b'shem. V'yavai lirmais ki b'tzalel v'hu adin l'shar navim, kulam shenetzlu b'shem ha'godol. So it's Hashem, but it's the articulation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Gilui of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this world, which is what we're all, I'm going to end with this point, even though it's in the middle, we're all meant to be doing this. What we're all meant to be doing is what Bezalel did, is to take something which is completely esoteric and bring it into the world, take the Chochmah and be mispashit al kol olam kulai. Take that Chochmah and bring it into Malchus. Give that Chochmah into the world. That's what human beings are supposed to be doing, especially Jews. How do you do it? Bezalel did it by building a Mishkan. You see, what's the...
How do we do it?
How do we do it? So, we'll go through the time of Rabbi Ian. I'll tell you a holy story, that like a Kabbalistic story that a fellow told me in Buffalo, a Holocaust survivor. So he said that he was standing in a death march, a death line, going into a gas chamber, the two lines, and then they would come and pick this one, pick that one. Survival of the fittest, right? If you look strong, if you look like you had some kind of use to them, so they take you out of the death line, or otherwise you stay in the death line. And he's there, he's going to die. So he wasn't particularly beautiful, and he wasn't particularly strong, and he wasn't particularly useful. He was just a 17-year-old kid or something. And he was in this death line, and a guy, an officer, comes up with a Jeep, a Nazi, and he screams in German that we need an electrician. Somebody heard electrician. We need an electrician. So he raised his hand, this guy, and he says, I'm an electrician. So he tells me, he says, what's the worst thing to do? Kill me? I mean, like, or maybe I'll blow up this whole darn camp anyway. He's gonna, and no idea, like electrician. So he was answering my question, just as to how he became an electrician.
Real? You really became an electrician?
Yeah, he became an electrician. Maybe you even know him. Roth, his name is. Roth. So Roth was an electrician. That's what he did. He was an electrician. He became an electrician while standing in line at the to walk into a gas chamber. I say it's a Kabbalistic story because the thing is like this, that everything comes from Shabbat, right? So the pshat is that what was B'Tzalel? B'Tzalel stood up. B'Tzalel built the Mishkan. So I'll build the Mishkan. That's all. So came this ruach. Amalei, I say, you want to build a Mishkan? So the Arizal says it like this: that Reish is Chochmah, Yiras Hashem. That the Chochmah is the Ratzon of a person, and that's the new translation, the new working translation that we have. Nothing to do with IQ. Chochmah is the Ratzon Harishon of a person, is called Chochmah. The Ratzon Harishon of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, Ratzon Kadosh Baruch Hu, Librayas Oilam B'Midas Hamtin, Rosh Eina Oilam B'Skai. That's already Bina. Let's test this out on something. The Chochmah of a Kadosh Baruch Hu is his Ratzon Harishon. The Chochmah of an Adam is the Ratzon Harishon. If the Ratzon Harishon is correct, it's unbelievable what Siyata D'Shmaya you can come up with. So to answer your question, the first thing we need to know is Hineni. I'm an electrician. I can start a Klal Yisrael. Rabbi Avinu said a lot of things you can do just by stepping forward and saying, "I'll do this," and then V'amalei say Ruach Elikim. So the Chochmah El Yoda is not about IQ and it's not about talent. It's not, because all of this, as the Rabbi Haber says, is completely impossible. From a natural, we got this this whiz kid over here. B'Tzalel let him build a Mishkan. No, B'Tzalel stood up somehow, maybe because he was 13 and naive. He stood up and he said, "I'll build a Mishkan. I can build a Mishkan." And HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, "Okay." Moshe Rabbeinu, by the way, was being mefalpil over here, and he was saying, "How could it be? How could the infinite fit into the finite? How could it be that I'm going to take the Shli'A of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and I'm going to fit it into Chaf Beis Amos on Chaf Beis Amos?" While he's being mefalpil, but tells him, raise his hand, I'll build the Mishkan. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave him, and that's the beginning and the end of B'Tzalel. That was his contribution. So we all need to build some kind of a Mishkan here, and that's the Chochmah that we can get from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then it goes to Bina, where it gets more practical, and then it goes into the spheres where it gets more physical. But the Chochmah is a zach that HaKadosh Baruch Hu Amalei Oisai Ruach Chochmah Karasi B'Shem. So now you became B'Tzel Kel. You became a reflection of HaKadosh
So how
Baruch
do
Hu.
we know that B'Tzalel didn't have that craftsmanship already, but not to the extent to be able to build a Mishkan, but it's because he had something that Hashem gave him before.
Yishmak. So that's what the Gemara says. Ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu Noisein Chochmah Ela L'misha Yesh Boi Chochmah. So everybody says, what's the first Chochmah? So Reish is Chochmah Yiras Hashem, or the Chochmah was he felt a Natiyah to it. He felt a Natiyah to it. So if we feel a Natiyah to something,
Do it.
I could do it. Do it. Do it. That's the point. Do it. If it's a good thing, do it. I'm absolutely clear. It's clear to me, just like I'm a little bit of an amateur historian, absolutely clear to me that the people in history, and it was always Yechidim, that have changed the whole world, saved millions of people, or destroyed millions of people, good Ratzon, bad Ratzon. I don't think that they would, see themselves as, I can do this. I'm going to do it. I'm going to try. I'm going to try to do this. Obviously, with us, it should be with positive. I'm going to try to do this.
Nachshon ben Amitam.
I'm going to do it. That's all. So, and B'Tzalel said, I'm going to do it. And that's the Chochmah. You say, that's the Chochmah that we're talking about.
Okay.